I tell you, let the revolution begin. What do you mean? The eye of this nation right now is looking for a youth ministry and is looking for a group of students, a group of people who are so rowdy, who are so crazy, who don't care what anybody thinks. They're looking around, they're sitting around, they're shouting, and they're giving everything they got. If I'm hearing about it in Birmingham, and I got done preaching it to over 5,000 students last night about a movement that's about to happen in California, I promise you other people are hearing it. I'll be in Friday, I'll be in Texas, preaching to a thing called Winterfest, and I'm going to be telling thousands of students there about this movement that's happening in California right now, this thing called the Stadium, where they've got a vision to black stadiums with Jesus Christ. You can't get no bigger than that. So you better check yourself, and you better know what you're a part of. You're a part of something much bigger than yourself. You're a part of something that's going to leave a legacy. You're a part of something that your grandchildren are going to read. You're a part of something that your friends are going to talk about. You're a part of something that is never going to happen again. And I want you to know that God is up to it, and the people He's going to use is sitting in this room the first night. History's made with people. Listen to me. History's made with people in their first night. Matter of fact, I wish that video would have played, but I want to talk to you about just for a second about the power of a few men. Somebody asked me earlier, how's this thing started? And if anybody knows me, they know it sure wasn't because of me. I'm a young cat. I just got out of the streets a few years ago. And back home, matter of fact, let me just tap into you for those of you who don't know anything about the basement or who we are or where we're from. Growing up in church, this would have been the last place I'd have been on a night like this. When I went, the only reason I was there was to scope out a honey. The only reason I'd have been there was to sell a buddy a little bit of drugs, a little bit of dope. The last thing I'd have been was in here lifting my hands and worshiping God. But something I can't explain. As a matter of fact, I remember getting expelled. I went through about 7 different schools in my area, built a really bad reputation. Maybe some fellas in here know what I'm talking about. And I built a bad reputation of who I was. And I'll never forget my senior year. Got hooked on drugs worse than I ever had. Really got into selling ecstasy, and me and my friends were just having what we thought was the time of our lives. And I'll never forget going down to Tuscaloosa, the University of Alabama, to college in my town. I'm there in the middle of a football game. I'll never forget this. And my parents come down, the first time they'd come to see me, and I'm in the middle of a football game. And ladies, I'm going to need your help on this. Let me backtrack for a second. The night before, I'd been dating this girl for about 8 years. Thought I was going to marry her. Ladies go, oh, come on, somebody help me with this. I did it for like 8 years, man. I thought she was the one. How many of y'all need to know right now? If this the one, you need to know. You know what I'm saying? If it ain't the one, let's get her out the door. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? And so we were walking down the street. She was flossing her little stuff, and I was like, yeah, girl, we're going to get married, you know, this and that. And you wouldn't believe she turned around with me in front of all my boys that night, in front of me, my fellas, me, my boys, you know what I'm saying? You don't take no disrespect in front of my boys. And she turns around, and she's done with it. And she snaps, she gives me the little, you know what it is, and she lets me know, it's over, sucker. And my heart broke. Thank you, ladies. And I went back to a room with a bunch of my friends, and we got as much coke as we could. By this time, I bumped heads in college with a guy who was selling massive amounts of cocaine. He was really one of the only dealers in my city. He taught me to trade it, how to cook it, to smoke it, get rid of it, you name it. We began doing cocaine all night long, like many other nights, but this night was different. I was so depressed that I began mixing more drugs, and I took an Oxycontin here, and I took a Loratab here, and before you know it, I got consumed. And the next morning, I'll never forget, my parents called me and they said, Matt, we're on the way to the football game. And I got so scared because I've been lying to them for so long, telling them that I was such a good kid, such a good student, that they show up. And I remember that morning I grabbed a bottle of pills. I chugged the bottle of pills because I was taking some downers. If anybody's ever done coke before, you know that you get really hyper. If you think I'm hyper now, you should see me on drugs. And I took a lot of them, and I took more pills to wind me down, to crank me down, so that I would be normal when my family finally got there. And somehow, at the end of that day, I remember walking up to this stadium, and I get to the very top of this stadium, in the middle of all these other students, in the middle of all my other friends, and I have a drug overdose in the middle of everybody. I fall out. I start having convulsions. I have seizures. If anybody has a friend who's had a drug overdose, you know one of the ways they die is because they choke on their own vomit. I'm sitting there embarrassing. My parents are crying My friends are looking at me, and I'm sitting on the ground having seizures.